From November 22nd, 1990, 16,000 people are in attendance here Thanksgiving night. Also, one big thing that's impacting some of the promos in tonight's show is the Gulf War. We are in the thick of Operation Desert Shield at this point. That happened, started back in August, and so this is a few months into it, and so there's a lot of dedication to the men and women of the armed forces, a lot of references made to those troops who are watching the show live, and there's also a promo or two that go into the troops in particular, and I'll get to that as we get there. But yeah, there's no fewer than 3 references to both President Bush and President Saddam Hussein. Interesting note, the dark match of this show was Shane Douglas versus Buddy Rose, with Douglas going over. And I knew around this time Buddy was working for the company as a job guy. Yeah, of course, he had done the blowaway diet skit. We actually pipe references at one point in the commentary here. But I didn't know about Shane Douglas working in any capacity at this time for the company. I knew later he would become Dean Douglas, and he would be the Intercontinental Champion for all of like half an hour before losing it to Razor Ramon. But beyond that, I didn't know that Shane was working that early in WWF in any kind of capacity. So that was kind of a cool little thing to learn about, and also cool. It's like, hey, you know, one of the people who trained me to wrestle was involved in this show in some way. Our first match of the night is the Perfect Team. Mr. Perfect and all 3 members of Demolition taking on the Warriors. It's Ultimate Warrior, Legion of Doom, and Texas Tornado Kerry Von Erich. One bygone thing from this era of wrestling that in a way I miss, but in another way I also understand why it's been phased out, is the style of promo that is cut by these just jacked up beefcake dudes who are just screaming at you. So much yelling, so much muscle, so much manly.
Except I know the 4 of us are gonna take the 4 of them. Demolition, Mr. Perfect. Submission is one way to go down. Winning nothing to do with anything close to perfect.
How weird is it that 2 of your top singles guys in terms of rankings and everything and champions, how these 2 top guys are opening the show for Survivor Series? I think there's other matches you could have put in that opening spot. I guess it's a way to start the show strong, but there you go. Also interesting, the fact you've got LOD and Demolition on opposite ends of the ring here. Of course, it's been long claimed and long debated about the fact that Demolition was a ripoff or a knockoff of the Legion of Doom. Of course, they got their start first in the NWA. Then Demolition came along later. So it was really cool to see these 2 teams, who are legendary in their own right, meet here in the ring. Of course, this was part of a small part of a longer feud between the 2, and from what I read, it didn't go as long as people had hoped for, because Axe, Bill Eadie, would eventually, he was working in a smaller capacity. He gets the least amount of ring time in this match. He's the first one eliminated. But at this point, his career is on the down slope. He will be soon phased out of Demolition, and it'll be just a smash and crush later on. Like I mentioned, Axe was the first one eliminated. Really quick fashion by the Warrior. There's a lot of running around Axe, and at one point you could tell he's missed the cue to throw a clothesline that he would miss. Warrior wins the splash there. LOD and Demolition, the remaining 2 members of Demolition, they get themselves disqualified. Then Hawk just like kicks the referee in the gut, and the referee no-sells it, and he just throws them both teams out. I thought the no-sell of the kick was pretty hilarious, considering how strong and how strong the LOD was booked, just killing normal wrestlers. It quickly comes down to Mr. Perfect on his own against Tornado and Warrior here. He is able to eliminate Kerry Von Erich with the Perfect Plex. He hits the same move on the Warrior, who kicks out. The match ends when Warrior eliminates Perfect, and he's the sole survivor. I'm going to give this match 2 stars out of 4. It's going to be really interesting. It's going to be difficult for me to, I think, grade these matches, because I think a lot of them are very similar. They're very similar in terms of, you know, overall action and ebb and flow of things. And I think, you know, when I'm watching this show, I'm thinking, man, I can kind of understand why they eventually phased out this format of pay-per-view, where the Survivor Series is not every match is a Survivor Series matchup. Every once in a while, they'll give you at least one a year now. For a time, there were like no Survivor Series matches, but now they're kind of slowly bringing them back. I think it's not good to have every match be a Survivor Series match, because as I see when I watch this show, is that it gets kind of boring. It's the same concept. You know, it's not like Lockdown, where every match is a cage match, but every match has some variation on the rules that makes things still kind of interesting in their own way, for every match is kind of a bubble. But this one's every match is a Survivor Series match, and there's stories therein, the full context of which I don't understand because I didn't grow up and watch during this time. I've done some research for this review, but I feel like just watching these matches kind of at a distance, looking back in hindsight, it's going to be a little difficult for me. So I'm going to try my best to rate these as objectively as I can without totally like losing interest. But I mean, that was kind of the struggle that I had to deal with watching this show. This next match is probably the most positively historic moment of this pay-per-view. There is a very negatively historic moment later on, which I'll get to, but this is the $1 Million team of Ted DiBiase, Rhythm and Blues, and a mystery partner versus the Dream Team of Dusty Rhodes, Coco Beware, and the Hart Foundation. First of all, what the hell was the deal with Rhythm and Blues? Did Honky Tonk Man really need a tag team partner, and did they have to basically take Greg Valentine and dye his hair jet black? I thought that was just a weird thing for Greg to do. It seemed, we're talking about things that are beneath people. I thought this was kind of beneath Greg Valentine to also become an Elvis impersonator. It was like a parody of Honky Tonk Man, who in itself was a parody. Although I do have to say, I gotta give him credit for doing the Elvis lip a couple times. That was pretty hilarious. And speaking of weird, what in the hell is going on with Jim Neidhart's hat? I was so confused because when he first walked out, I was like, oh my God, was he bald this time? And he had a little weird lumpy head? No, he's just wearing this pink leather skull cap. It was just such a weird look for him. Jim Neidhart always had like the strangest looks. He had the parachute pants with the new foundation with Owen Hart. He had the pink skull cap. Not good looks for Jim Neidhart. DiBiase brings out his mystery partner, who of course is the Undertaker, making his WWF debut. It's really one of those things, kind of like a few weeks ago I reviewed Bad Blood 97, and when Kane debuted, it really could have gone either way with Kane. And just the same thing with the Undertaker here. A gimmick that just different from everything else going on at the time. This was an out there gimmick in a culture that still had a lot of out there gimmicks. This was the most out there. And so it really could have gone, it was a 50-50. It could have failed, it could have succeeded. Of course, we know it succeeded now. And then just looking back at just which of these things is not like the other. You've got Ted DiBiase, a couple of Elvis impersonators, and this zombie character, The Undertaker. When I was becoming a fan for the first time of wrestling in like the late 90s, and I thought The Undertaker was awesome. Oh, so cool, Undertaker and Kane, I love them both. Oh, how'd The Undertaker debut? Oh, he was a mystery partner in this Survivor Series thing where he was like being paid by Ted DiBiase. Sounds like the least interesting debut for someone who would become one of the biggest stars in the history of the business. So that really was a shock to me when I first learned about that. I spoke earlier about, trends in wrestling that are, a bygone thing that don't really exist anymore as we know them. Here's another one, like heel managers. Oh my God, so many damn managers in this whole show, but also this match in particular. You have Jimmy Hart with Rhythm and Blues. You've got Virgil, who's technically a manager, with Ted DiBiase, and then you've got Brother Love now with The Undertaker. You have 3 managers on a 4-person team. That is a little much, and I think just like the reason that you don't see a lot of managers anymore, especially in WWE, is because there is that possibility of so many managers together in one place, or just like manager after manager after manager comes out. I think every match on this show has manager involvement, or at least a manager appearance at some point. Let's talk about Taker's action in this match. I think that's the big story as far as I'm concerned here. Of course, he's a big dude, but he's also very agile, has a lot of interesting moves I've never really seen before. At one point, he takes down Bret Hart, not with a choke slam, but he kind of like grabs him by the throat, and then Bret just takes a quick bump. It's almost kind of like a sidewalk slam, but without like grabbing the body and without the rotation. Same basic premise there. He eliminates Coco Beware with the tombstone fairly early. He just absorbs everyone's attacks. He doesn't sell anything because that's his gimmick at the time. He's the zombie man, basically. Taker eliminates Dusty Rhodes with a axe handle from the top rope after he walked on the rope. So it's kind of the first time we see Taker doing the rope walk thing. Then he gets eliminated via countout in a very weird and I think technically not correct way, because he beats up Dusty Rhodes and then Taker's counted out. Oh, he's the legal man. No, he's not. Then Bret rolls up Valentine in a small package, so it's down to he and DiBiase. They have good back and forth here. Really could go either way. DiBiase is kicking out of a lot of Bret's stuff. Bret goes for a crossbody. Ted rolls it into a pin and wins the match. So Ted DiBiase is the sole survivor of his team. And I forgot to mention, the winners of all these matches will face off again in the main event of the Battle of Survivors. So it has the potential to be a big old goulash of wrestlers who weren't part of the same team originally facing off in the main event. I give this one 2.5 stars. Probably my favorite match of this card, because they're all Survivor Series matches, so it's kind of hard to compare them. I think what really sets it over the edge for me is the fact that it's Taker's debut. It's very historical there, and also the work that Bret and DiBiase do as well, something I really appreciate. Up next, the Vipers, Jake Roberts, Jimmy Snuka, and the Rockers take on the Visionaries of Rick the Model Martel, Warlord, and Power and Glory. Of course, the real story with this match is you've got Jake and you've got Rick Martel, who Rick does everything he can to avoid Jake in this matchup, because it was a little bit before this where Jake was blinded by Rick Martel's arrogance perfume, and you can see Jake's really selling the blindness too, because he even got a white contact lens in that eye to sell the vision impairment. Also, I love this. I don't know, I'm sure this has to be intentional. This cannot be a coincidence. The fact that the heel team was called the Visionaries. I imagine that they were named that to take a dig at Jake Roberts, like, haha, we have vision and you don't. Ah, classic heel heat. Also, look at the team of the Vipers, Jake Roberts, Jimmy Snuka, and the Rockers. Think of all the drugs those those four had on them at one time in that one moment. That locker room must have been a fun place to be. Snuka, by the way, is 47 years old here. He's, I think, the oldest guy by far in this match. He looks amazing for his age, too. The first elimination is Marty Jannetty. Warlord eliminates him after Marty goes to the well too many times with the high-flying moves. Martel eliminates Snuka in the exact same manner that DiBiase beat Bret in the finish of the previous match. So I thought the timing of that was a little too close together.
Oh, he never saw him coming. You cheap ass. Excuse me, you cheap person.
So it's down to Jake Roberts all by himself, 4-on-1. Jake tries to valiantly fight back. He does hit Warlord with the DDT, but while that's going on, the referee is distracted. Martel tries to spray the arrogance in Jake's eyes again, but they say he gets out of the way, but I think he took pretty much all of that. He just didn't sell it this time. So then Roberts pulls out Damien the Snake, so he chases Martel out of the ring with the Snake. Jake gets counted out. So the Visionaries with the clean sweep, the flawless victory. Gorilla Monsoon says on commentary, it's the first time in Survivor Series history that a team has won a match with all four members of the team still in play, still intact. I'm going to give this match 2 stars. I like the story being told here of Jake really trying to fight and get his hands on Rick Martel. He doesn't quite do it, and the valiant fighting back despite the odds being so insurmountable. Really good stuff here. So I give this match 2 stars. Backstage, we see Hulk Hogan's team cutting a promo, and I just realized watching this promo here, how have I not noticed this before, that when you see his body and the way he's moving around, it looks like he's doing the PP dance when he's doing a promo. He really has to go.
Now that the whole world is in a state of confusion, and especially the WWF is turning topsy-turvy.
Up next, the Hulkamaniacs, Hulk Hogan, Tugboat, Big Boss Man, and Jim Duggan taking on the Natural Disasters, Earthquake, Dino Bravo, Haku, and the Barbarian. This, of course, was one small part of the large feud that Hogan and Quake were on for several months here. Hogan would eventually win that feud with some stretcher matches, then go on to face Sergeant Slaughter the next year for the championship at WrestleMania 7. Interesting that the heel name here is the Natural Disasters. Then it would be later repurposed as a tag team name once Tugboat turned heel and joined Earthquake and became Typhoon. Also, Haku was a last-minute replacement for Rick Rude. In storyline, they said Rude was suspended for insulting Big Boss Man's mother, which I think is kind of a silly reason to suspend somebody in wrestling, but it turns out in real life it's because Rude left the company, and so they needed a replacement. Also, very interesting kind of callback, because if you consider what Boss Man did later in his career, like '98, tormenting the Big Show over his dying father and then later his dead father, it's like, oh my God, maybe Boss Man was so traumatized by Rick Rude making fun of his own mother that he snapped, and now he wants to take that aggression out on other people. I've never seen Boss Man as much as a babyface before, so looking back at this era and seeing Boss Man, who's still like very agile for someone his size, like doing the stuff he was doing and getting so over with the fans, like, man, it's too bad that Hogan had such like a stranglehold and Warrior has such a stranglehold in the company as far as top baby faces go. Because I think Boss Man, I think he could have had a real good run as maybe not main eventer so much, or as a world champion. The fact he never won an Intercontinental Championship, even though he fought for it a lot, I thought was very interesting. The fact he never really won a championship in that first run. Duggan gets disqualified in a very weird, wonky way. It's down to Hogan and Barbarian. Hogan's the winner. He's the sole survivor for his team. He moves on to the grand finale in the main event. I give this one 1 star. This, I think, was by far like the least interesting of all the Survivor Series matchups. I think it had like the people who are the biggest guys, the slowest guys, the most plotting guys. Haku really didn't get a whole lot in this. He was only in the match for like, I don't know, a minute or two. Like, he didn't get a whole lot of offense in. So if Haku stayed in the whole thing, that might have been interesting, but he was the first one gone, and it was just a bunch of people who, you know, when you compare to the people who you had in previous matches like DiBiase and Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels and Marty Jannetty and all these really cool people, and, you know, Greg Valentine, all these good guys, and Undertaker, what he would eventually become, then you've got like all this, and it's like, nah, this match didn't really do it for me. Mean Gene Okerlund interviews the Macho Candy Striper, Randy Savage. Not much to say in particular about this promo. Savage does call out Ultimate Warrior for a championship match sometime in the future. He will eventually cost Warrior the title at the Royal Rumble, and Sergeant Slaughter will beat Warrior for the title, and then Savage and Warrior will face off at WrestleMania 7. So that's Savage's contribution to this. Up next, the alliance of Nikolai Volkov, Tito Santana, and the Bushwhackers versus the Mercenaries, Sergeant Slaughter, Boris Zukov, and the Orient Express. The heels are coming out with, you know, the camo face paint. Sergeant Slaughter had just turned heel doing the old Iraqi sympathizer gimmick. He's got General Adnan with him. And then Slaughter, before the match, cuts a very drawn out promo against the troops.
We didn't have any sand in our pumpkin pie.
This promo went on forever, and I was getting so sick of it. I like that, but then again, that delivery, I mean, it did the job because it went on forever. I wanted him to shut the hell up so badly, so he was doing his job, I guess. Zukov and the Orient Express are eliminated pretty much immediately. Like in the first 3 minutes of this matchup, they're all gone. So Slaughter's by himself, and at first you think, oh, Slaughter's going to go pretty soon too, because it's 4-on-1, and they're going to, yay America, how dare you insult the troops? But no, Slaughter holds his own and eliminates, Volkov, Butch, and Luke all by himself. Oh, but also, by the way, what the hell? I mean, I missed the point at which Volkov went from singing the Russian national anthem to going, yay, USA, waving the flag. What's going on? Oh, wrestling. So it's down eventually to the future AWF superstars, Tito, Santana, and Sergeant Slaughter. They have a bit of a fight back and forth going on. Slaughter shoves Tito into the referee, causes a rev bump. Tito hits a flying forearm. He's got the match won, but while the referee is down, General Adnan comes in, hits Tito with the Iraqi flag. Slaughter puts him in the camel clutch. You think that oh my God, the heels are going to walk away with it. They're going to steal this one, but the referee, apparently, while he's selling, he sees what's going on. It's right in his field of vision, folks. I mean, then he disqualifies Slaughter, and Tito wins the match. So after all that work of Slaughter working all by himself, and eventually he screws himself over in the end due to his cheating ways catching up to him. I'm going to give this match 1.5 stars. So remember how I said that the Undertaker's debut was the most historically positive moment of this show? Now it's time for the opposite end of this. We go to Gene Okerlund presenting the Gobbledy Gooker. They look at the egg hatches, out comes Hector Guerrero in a turkey suit, the fans crap all over it. You know how this goes. If you want more detail about this whole segment, just go to my worst debuts countdown. Spoiler alert, he's number 1. The one thing I thought was interesting about this, the whole point of being a booker or a promoter, anything you do, the whole goal of it is to make money, to draw fans. So where is the money? Where is the audience appeal in the Gobbledy Gooker? What about him makes people think, oh my God, kids and families are going to come from miles around to see this guy jumping around the ring in a turkey suit? Because this goes on forever. After he gets out of the egg, he and Okerlund do this whole song and dance shtick for what feels like it might as well have been 20 minutes. It's more like 5, but it felt like it went a lot longer. Of just Okerlund trying to copy the Gooker, who's doing all these acrobatic things and just all these pratballs and stuff. Really, Okerlund, I think, was kind of the saving grace of the segment because he had a few funny one-liners talking about the Gooker, and then like some of his face plants were pretty funny too. And God bless Piper, he's doing his damnedest to put this thing over, saying, "Oh, the kids are loving it," and they're not loving it. Like you see some shots of fans dancing and stuff. I think they're doing it just out of desperation. Please, if we dance, then maybe they'll wrap this thing up faster. we can all go home sooner. So we have our main event, the match of survival, the all remaining winners from the previous matchups. You got Hulk Hogan, Ultimate Warrior, and Tito Santana taking on Ted DiBiase and all of the Visionaries, Rick Martel, Warlord, and Power and Glory. Very interesting the way these teams were seated. All the faces and all the heels are in their own respective teams. Funny how that works out. So yeah, it's 3-on-5. Tito pins the Warlord instantly, so it becomes a 4-on-3 thing. Then DiBiase pins Tito after dropping him throat first onto the top rope. Nice knowing you, Tito, but we all know where the focus of this is going on. It ain't you, Tito. Sorry. You have to wait a few years when you go to AWF to get your time in the sunlight. So it's down to Hogan and Warrior taking on the rest of the heels. Power and Glory hit Hogan with their double team finisher, the same one that took out Shawn Michaels earlier in the night, but Hogan totally no-sells it. He eliminates Roma all by himself. Then Hogan hits Martel with like a really bad looking clothesline, but really Hogan never should have thrown it because of the way that Martel was hitting the ropes. I guess he was just trying to like get him to clothesline out of the ring, but it was very sloppy. So Martel just takes this really awkward bump out of the ring and he runs away. He abandons his team, so Martel is counted out. So it's down to 2-on-2. And from this point, everything just falls apart in rapid succession for the heels. Hogan eliminates DiBiase with the Hogan special, big boot leg drop, of course. Then like a second later, he power slams Hercules, who's the last man on the heel team. Hogan tags in Warrior and he does his whole song and dance where he runs off the ropes, then splashes him. Warrior eliminates Hercules. Each of the top baby faces gets a chance to shine. And that's the whole thing. 1.5 stars is probably the best I can give this match. And I know the match ratings for this show, they don't go very far. It's like 1 star to 2 stars, and there's not a lot of variation in between. Again, I think it's just the way these matches are paced and the fact that it's all Survivor Series matchups. So it's like there's none that really stand out. And there's none except for, like I said, for the one with $1 Million Team and Dream Team. Not a whole lot of things that make these matches stand out as me, this kind of like neutral observer watching many years later. So there you go. You got Hogan and Warrior posing with each other and they're celebrating together. At one point, like one one of the last things you see is the camera looking way up, right in the crotches and the buttocks of Hogan and Warrior, and it's just a ridiculous shot. You couldn't have backed out just like 3 feet, cameraman. That was a little much. So that's the show. Hogan and Warrior stand tall. So my final grade for Survivor Series 1990 is going to be a C+. Like I said, kind of hard to really fairly grade these matches when they're all so similar. So like, every match had the same variation of like some guy gets DQ'd, some guy gets counted out, some wonky stuff happens where people get eliminated in ways they don't. I love the fact that you see people get disqualified or counted out and they always look surprised when they got eliminated. Like, what? Why am I getting disqualified? Like, everyone had that reaction who got DQ'd. I thought it was hilarious. There were no real bad matches on this card. Like, nothing was a stinker. I don't think there were any Survivor Series matches that I hated. Really, the one negative part about this whole show was Gobbledygooker's debut. You can't really blame that on the other wrestlers. You can't really blame it on the Gooker either. He's working with what he's got. But yeah, there weren't a whole lot of great matches either. So really, this one's kind of a middle-of-the-road show. It's known for 2 big things, Taker's debut and the Gobbledygooker, and that's pretty much it. And really, everything I've read some things where it's like, a Taker could have been the guy in the egg. Imagine, again, could have failed, could have succeeded, you know? It's one of those 50-50 things. You just never know in professional wrestling. So thanks once again to Josh Fittler for nominating Survivor Series 1990. If you want to play a part in what classic pay-per-views I review in the future in this channel, go to patreon.com/wrestlingwithwregret, become a $10 backer or above, and you will have the chance to nominate shows for me to review, good, bad, or somewhere in the middle in the future. Next time on the classic pay-per-view review segment, we're going forward a few years. It's still Survivor Series time. It's going to be Survivor Series 1995. Be sure to thumbs up this video if you like it, comment below, subscribe to Wrestling with Regret, and buy the t-shirts at ProWrestlingTees.com. I'm Brian Zane, and I'll see you next time.